up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka Toe Tag and Tambo. Golf is back. We're back here at Run Pure Sports. Got my two boys, Uncle T and Snyder. We're going to go through that in a minute, get to everything here. But before we get into it, want to remind everybody on the way in just to click that like button, please. And of course, hit the subscribe button as well. Trying to build the channel up as much as possible. I know it's not going to be as many right in the live starting it off. We still got NBA, we got NFL, but just to keep you guys in the loop here right off the top, we are going to keep this show, the Strokes Gain Show here at Run Pure Sports, on Tuesdays at 8:30 Eastern, just like we've got it right now for you. We're going to keep it that way, I think, probably until the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Got to talk with the greater gods above and see what we're going to change the schedule to after the fact. But we've got a lot going on here. So still going to get, for members, everything on top of the site. You're going to get your cores, your tiers, talk about the cores, how we're playing them, different strategy. And we're going to talk about some of that on this very show here today. Started off, though, we got the chat live on the way in. Everyone loves Uncle T. Kick it over to my boy, Terry Niehaus. Uncle T, what's happening, man? How you doing?
What's going on, boys? Really excited. Yeah, I mean, it's been, you know what? It's only been, what, about 4.5, 5 weeks? And I'm not going to lie. It feels, some people say, well, it went pretty quick. Man, it felt like it was like 3 months. I mean, I really missed it. You know, we did, you know, have a lot of other, you know, NFL. We had, football, we had MMA, all that kind of stuff for the month of December. But man, I am ready to go. I'm in here with my two guys, Tambo and Snyder, and looking forward to it. We're going to have a great year of golf at RPS. I thought we crushed it last year, and now with the SaberSim edition that we you know partnered up with a little bit ago, I think we're in for a huge 2022 golf season.
Yeah, you were talking about before, and I'll bring you in a second there, Snyder. Excited to be back with you guys. But you talked about SaberSim, and if you guys don't know yet, at Run Pure Sports, we've teamed up with SaberSim, and I think Snyder mentioned it too. They've got everything for Showdown, for the main slate, can make a lot of unique lineups. That's going to be important, especially on a week like this. So if you guys haven't signed up over at Run Pure Sports yet, get on over there. Talked about it last week on our NFL Off the Chalk show. It's the best way to bring in a new year. I use the joke, but I say everybody's signing up for the gym. Fatten up your bank account, get healthy in the bank account. Get on over to Run Pure Sports, all sports, one price. Don't worry about your weight, sitting on the couch, watch sports. A lot of fun with us here. We're happy to be back in the booth. Snyder, what's going on with you, man? How you been?
Yeah, I'm ready to be back here on this season. I mean, coming off of what was a great season for us all around last year in the PGA season, we had some good takes, some good takedowns. Looking to get back on it here in Hawaii. We got a little event before the main course hits us next week in the full field at the Sony Open. But TOC here is always fun. Looking to shake things up here this year. Looking to improve on last year's success.
Yeah, I'm with you there 100%. Obviously, the Showdown content you do in the playbook is awesome. Excited to be here for a full season, actually. Last year, I joined Run Pure Sports later on in the golf season, so it's going to be a fun one, the full setup this year. We're going to have a lot of great content for you guys over there. We haven't quite got our meeting in yet to just try and plan out the entire season, but like I said, at least for this week and the next upcoming 4 or 5 NFL rounds, it'll be the same thing you expect. The goal is then to, of course, add more and make things better for members, at least over at Run Pure Sports. We'll always have a free show on YouTube, likely be the Tuesday show. We'll have to wait and see how that shapes out, but we'll give you the news as we've got it. A couple other things too, I'm just trying to think of off the top, but Alex Hahn, by the way, Uncle T, got it in the chat before we even got on. Well, you were having your technical difficulty, said, I guarantee Uncle T's got the blue Titleist hat on today. I'm not sure it looks blue. You're dark over there today, but
charcoal gray tonight, Alex. Got a little Christmas present from my boys. All charcoal gray with the white lettering tonight.
He knows you so well, man. He even said, is that a Christmas present that you got, new Christmas present there? And then I don't even know what Snyder got on. He got a crazy hat on, says Thorn, I think, on it.
Firethorn Golf Club here in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's a Pete Dye private golf course here in Lincoln.
Yeah, it's a nice looking hat, and the red is shiny on it too. So you love to see that. I've got, of course, the P hat. The boys in the chat were saying the G hat. No, the guess was a black hat. Well, that's every hat that I wear. The DraftKings hat, no, but I'm still not telling you what the P stands for because JSU still does not know what it means. So we'll be talking about a guy that definitely reps the brand though when we get through it. And Snyder, last thing before we hop in and get the course preview, they're already asking, have you changed any of your ridiculous takes on Bryson DeChambeau?
I'm looking forward to this Morikawa versus Bryson action again this year. I think he's only going to get better. I'm looking forward to him possibly taking over number 1 in the world this weekend as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that. Somebody posted, I think it was Golf Bet on Twitter today, posted who's more likely to get the career Grand Slam, because obviously Rory and Spieth both have a chance to wrap it up this year with their respective tournaments that they need to win. And I said, I actually think it probably is going to be this guy. And I put a picture of Morikawa because I just think it's, I don't know. Rory's tried the Masters on quite a few times now. It hasn't worked. Spieth hasn't been able to get it done. So, at his respective tournaments. So I just think, Morikawa already got 2 of them out of the way. Only needs 2 more. The guy is pretty dominant. We'll talk about him this week. He's 10-8 when we get through it. But before we get into it, let's talk to you, Snyder, here. Bring us up to speed.
Tambo.
Yes.
Tambo, let me interject real quick because how many golf tournaments do we have on the calendar?
I think 36 weeks straight is what we've got upcoming.
All right, let's throw, since this is the first tournament of the year, before we get it to Snyder, over or under, give me a number that Morikawa isn't recommended by Snyder. 36 tournaments, how many times is he going to recommend Morikawa as his pick?
Over 35 and a half.
How many events is he going to play?
35 and a half, and I'm still going to take the over. And
like
that
that.
includes weeks that he's not playing, where he still tries to mention him. It's like, well, if Morikawa was here, this is what I would be thinking. He's still going to drop
take him and just take a 0 if he doesn't play.
JSU's in the chat. The P stands for Phil Mickelson. We're going to talk about him for you later, JSU. We're going to get on the Phil Mickelson train this week. You get 4 full rounds. That's part of it. We'll talk about some strategy when we get into it too, because obviously you got a 39 man now. I should mention 38 for those of you that don't know. It was odd to me when I saw the tee times come out today. Cam Champ was off by himself first thing in the morning. It's almost like maybe they knew and then had to retest or PCR or something, but it came back that he was not able to make it. He's not gonna be able to play due to the COVID protocols and testing positive. So 38 man event, no cut event, the Hawaii swing, right? It's the Sentry TOC that we're here for now. And then of course, next week we've got the Sony Open. You go back to back there, but Snyder, talk to us about this course a little bit. It's got some history here. Of course, we've got some, multiple time winners or people that are in the field that have won at this course. And then of course, if those that don't know out there, this field is all of the winners from last year. And then Xander got a special pass, no wins last season, but he did win an Olympic gold medal. So that got him into the field. Funny enough, last year was different at this tournament. They had it up to, I believe, 42. And Harris English got an invite from making it to the Tour Championship because of COVID and everything. They let some other guys in, and he ended up winning it. So maybe it's Xander week for the only guy that actually didn't get a proper W on the tour, but won the gold medal. But talk to us about this course, Snyder, and what you know.
Yeah, we're out here at Kapalua. It's a par 73. It's going to reach right around 7,600 yards, a little less than that. It's going to set up to be another birdie fest this year. We've got great weather here. Winds are going to be right around that 10 to 15 mile range, which isn't too bad here. Quite a bit of elevation here. I think the highest point on the course is like 510 feet or something, which is quite a bit higher than next week's event, which won't have as much elevation. The fairways here are wide, but you won't find a flat spot on these fairways. They're quite undulating. That's going to leave some interesting lies, but I expect these great ball strikers to just rip this place up again. We've got 4 par 5s here, definitely attackable for all of them. 7 of these holes have a 25% or better birdie percentage. So like I said, there's going to be a lot of birdies, a lot of scoring to be made here. The large greens here are going to bring into play some 3-putt avoidance. So that's something to kind of look out for. It's kind of going to mitigate the pour around the green play though as well. The par 5 18th hole, it's going to play pretty tough at right around 650 yards at times. JT made bogey here in 2020 to drop himself back into that playoff, which he did winning. So some key stats here: strokes gained approach, birdies are better percentage, opportunities gained, putting with an emphasis on 3-putt avoidance.
Yeah, the 3-putt avoidance, I think, is a big factor. You talked about it, right? The wider fairways, pretty much everyone can find the fairway. It's then what they do from there. If they're missing the greens, I mean, it's bigger greens too, like you talked about. So if they're missing, they'll need to have some soft touch around those greens. But even then, depending on where you put it, you got to be able to get those putts up close and then tap it in. In some cases, if you're there, that means your eagle turns into a birdie. That's the ideal setup. Or maybe you can get it close enough to have a tap in eagle. We'll have to see as we go throughout. Uncle T, anything you want to talk about when it comes to the course this week before we get into some strategy? And then, of course, going through the tiers with the DraftKings price points.
No, not really. I mean, Schneider did a good job. I think 18, obviously you got the par 5, 15th, and then the 18th. There's a lot that can happen on that last round on Sunday. Coming in, those last few holes. I know he mentioned the double bogey by JT. but I've seen it the other way. I think maybe Gary Woodland last year or the year before, I think needed maybe an eagle to get in there or something. But anyway, I wouldn't say it's a risk reward. It's par 5, but you get a good drive. It goes all the way down that hill. It just depends on where it's going to land. You know, they're going to have probably a 5-wood or a low iron into that green for some of the guys, especially my boy Big Daddy Bryson. Hell, he may hit driver like 6-iron in there. Who knows? I mean, but it is where you're going to maybe see some birdies and eagles, possibly. I know Schneider said it's going to play. And one thing too to mention is the wind, right? I mean, you know, the wind really is the only defense at all, and it doesn't look like that's going to be a factor. So I think we're going to see definitely 24, 25, 26 under for sure win this thing this week.
Yeah, I like that call. I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking around 25 under based on the weather factor, and we'll check it tomorrow night. If you guys aren't members, time to get in now, get into the Discord. We're always dropping things in there. The minute the Cam Champ withdrawal was there, it was in there. Everybody's throwing things out there. We put the ownership percentages after the tournament starts. I don't know about the Thursday mornings. I can't normally do that with all the early tilters. Like guy makes a bogey on the first hole and he's done for the week in some cases. I don't go that far, but we'll get into it from there. I want to talk real quick too on some strategies. So Uncle T, maybe I'll kick it back to you first, then go to Snyder's thoughts. But just again, having it as a no-cut event, having it as, you know, you can get some stars and scrubs going if you think some of these guys down below can score. Just want to get your thoughts. I've got a few thoughts afterwards as well, even different than what I was sort of thinking yesterday coming in. I did play around with some builds today and just looked at it. But what are your thoughts on strategy for this particular no-cut event with 38 guys now after the champ withdrawal?
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting for me, guys, because earlier today, I initially looked at, and most of the no-cut events, generally speaking, obviously there's exceptions, but generally speaking, most people will want to gravitate towards stars and scrubs approach. So I looked at more of a balanced build middle of the day today, and I really didn't see anything that really stood out for me to where I was real comfortable with it. So I kind of played around a little bit with the Saber Sim that we talked about earlier and looked at some different builds and plugged in some different numbers. And I think I went back to, you know what I mean, the stars and scrubs a little bit. So I kind of, and for everybody out there listening, just play with it a little bit, kind of get your builds in there, get the guys that you want to get the ownership on and want to key on, and just play around with it. You're going to, the one build I have right now, guys, I have 900 hours on the table, and we'll get to talking about that too as we go, about how much to leave on the table this week to get different. You can always get different by leaving money. The build I have right now that I like, I left 900 hours on the table. Now that feels like a lot. I may not stay there, but the build I have now that I like, it's got 900 on the table.
Yeah, you can definitely leave the money on the table here. I think up to 1,000 is no problem. Look back at some of the stuff from last year. That wasn't actually the case. It was, 500 or more. In most cases, they spent 40. People spent 49.5 or right up to 50. And actually, in the main tournament last year, can't remember if it was a $10 or a $15 like it is this year. There's a $15 with 100K up top. They spent 50,000 salary, the entire salary. I know it's 42 guys, so it's four more guys in the field, but it was still a unique lineup and shipped the whole thing with spending the whole 50,000. So there's ways to get different. There is guys, when we do talk about these tiers and going down through them, that you won't even need to play or care about it. Sorry, not that you won't need to play, that others won't play. So you don't need to care about that so much. The other thing I already saw in the chat too, like K Cork brings up possibly a good point. Rom is projecting so well and his ownership is going to be so low. It's hard to say. I think one of the biggest things for this type of week is the ownership sites, projections, anything that people put out there are oftentimes very wrong. Just give you that heads up right now, where they think it's this way and it can flip 10% the other way because they just have no idea. And Data Golf is a site that a lot of people use for this stuff. And Rom projects extremely well over there. Not talking ownership, but for his numbers. So while you may think, oh, but everyone's talking about Morikawa and JT and Bryson and all this stuff, it doesn't always matter when people just click the optimizers out there and take the plays that it's projecting for more. So it'll maybe be, just so you know, a little bit more balanced than you think. I think at the top, you can just sort of play who you want, but there is interesting situational stuff. I'm going to flip it to you on this one, Snyder. We're going to talk about the top 5 guys. So it's Rahm, Morikawa, Thomas, DeChambeau, and Hovland. But I want to give you this right off the top. I had it on the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast with Kenny Kim yesterday. And you have, I'm saying like you have to pick one. Obviously you don't, but in this, I'm telling you or asking you, you have to pick one. Rahm, Hovland is the same price, a 2v2, as Morikawa, your boy, but it also includes Bryson. That's the exact 2v2. You got to pick one side. You only get one lineup this week. What would you take?
It sounds like me and Big Daddy are going to be locking arm to arm there.
Yeah, I thought you might say that because the Morikawa, it's just like any 2v2. We get it on all of our shows where you can hear JSU right now talking, well, I love this guy. I don't love that guy, but since I love this guy, we'll still take it. That's the Morikawa love there, but that's it. Talk to me about this upper range, right? We just talked about Rahm being up there. Morikawa, JT, two of the best ball strikers in the world. Morikawa with the number one in the world narrative. Mind you, last time he had the opportunity was the hero, 5-stroke lead going into the final round and actually lost to Hovland in the end. So the way she goes, but he should be back and ready to go. And then Bryson, 4 par 5s here, wide open fairways, big greens, lots of opportunity for him. And then Hovland, hottest golfer in the world. We don't know if he has his clubs yet. He said today on his Instagram or whatever it was, he said that Delta, get your shit together. I need my clubs back. I did hear about Berger receiving his, so that'll come up later, same narrative, but he did get his, said it's all good to go. What are your thoughts on these guys up in the top range?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting up here. We got Jon Rahm, who's had pretty good success here in his 4 trips. His best finish was his first time back in 2018. Got second the last 3 years, 7th, 8th, 10th. I mean, that's all right, but that's not what you're looking for at that $11K price tag. So it'll be interesting. I think people will still go to Rahm as he's number one and the most, I think the most notable name up there. Morikawa and JT is going to be interesting there. I think Morikawa kind of gets squeezed out as JT ended the season on fire there, and his course history here is impeccable. I mean, a couple wins and a couple third place finishes here. I mean, it's hard to fade him here, especially when he's got that good mojo going back around. You're looking at Bryson here. I mean, Bryson's got the game. I mean, he can just completely overpower this place if he can drop some putts. I mean, he is a pretty good putter at times, and it just comes down to that iron play with him. If he can put in some good iron shots, I think Bryson has just as good a chance as anyone to walk away with this. He's definitely going to be at an advantage on these par 5s and playing at such a high elevation too. He's going to be bombing that ball out there even further than normal. So I can be talked on to Shambo. I don't think I'm going to get to Hovland. He's at 10K. He's kind of, I don't know if he's head's really in the game here. He doesn't have his clubs like you say, so that could be a major factor. I think he's still going to see ownership though off his back-to-back wins. People are going to pull up that game log and they're going to see him the cheapest here, and I think it's easier to fit in like a Hovland and Xander, and then your roster build still looks pretty nice when you have those two in there. So I kind of think Hovland's going to see some ownership. I expect Justin Thomas to be the highest owned in this range. I'm going to be going with my guy Morikawa. I think he's got that bid for the number one in the world this year. I think he needs to finish second or higher, and Rahm needs to finish third or worse, I think is the deal. And yeah, going back to that hero, he had a pretty good 3 days. So I think he shot like 66, 64, 62, and then comes out on Sunday. I don't know. They might have been partying or something or not. He drops like a 42 on the front nine, and then he shot like 33 on the back. But I mean, that front nine just buried him. So I think he's going to come out. I've seen a picture of his old lady. She's looking pretty nice down there on the Instagram, pulling a book out of AP's page there. But that's where I'm kind of at. Morikawa, I think JT is a very tough fade. So, Morikawa and JT and Bryson in there too. I'm not sure how I'm going to allocate this yet, but definitely going to be on Morikawa pretty heavy.
Yeah, and I think you're right about him getting squeezed out. I just think, even like I was saying before, people are going to say to themselves, if no one's going to play Rahm, I'm going to play him. But again, you got to click the button on Morikawa. Everyone's going to talk about it and the reason and the narratives. But JT with those 2 wins here, I saw a tweet was posted out the other day. So I guess Rahm, JT, and Spieth came down here over the new year and then stayed through. And apparently JT popped up a 61 at a local course. Again, it's like a muni there. Who knows what it would be, but just going out and popping a 61 is not easy to do, but that's what JT does. All those rounds to score. And I think JT X, or like you said, Hovland X would be where a lot of cash game or single entry lineups start. And that's where I think the Rahm, Morikawa, Bryson stuff is interesting to get off that and get around it. I'll definitely be heavier on those three in tournaments myself. The Bryson thing is interesting. 2 7th places here still. And last year, even when he was here and had a bad run, I mean, he lost strokes around the green. He lost strokes with the putter, and he still was right up there. The guy can score the eagle opportunities, everything that's out there. I think when you're getting 4 full rounds of Bryson, that's just as good as 4 full rounds of a guy like JT, especially with 4 par 5. So I can definitely go above and below JT there. Rahm is still interesting, like you said, because no matter what, he'll get some ownership just based on being the top. But I think if more are going to go to JT, it is better to have Rahm, Morikawa, and DeChambeau. What do you think here, Uncle T? What are your thoughts up at the top?
Yeah, you guys bring up some good points. I mean, just based off of what I mentioned earlier about my current thought process is I'm probably going to jam at least I'm probably going to jam for sure 2 of these guys in probably every one of my lineups as of right now. It's just too easy to do. The win equity clearly is going to come. The higher win equity, obviously, I should say, is going to clearly come from these top guys. I don't agree necessarily that Rahm's going to be the lowest owned of the group. I think it's going to be Bryson by a little bit. Rahm, you can't go wrong. I know there's some people in chat, and again, clearly we're not going to be able to start any of these shows and start at the top of any of the salary board and say, hey, this guy's a bad play. Clearly Rahm's going to be a good play 36 events out of the year. But for me this week, I'm probably going to try to fade Rahm, and then I'm going to go down to Morikawa, JT, and Bryson. So I'm going to play a combination of those 3 guys, 2 of those 3 guys, in probably every one of my lineups. Morikawa, again, I kind of, give Snyder a hard time, but Morikawa is, probably one of my top 5 golfers as well. I just prefer Bryson a little bit more as far as just particularly, selfishly, I guess, if you will. But yeah, Morikawa is a very good play here. And actually the build I was talking about earlier had Morikawa and Bryson in that build. So I definitely like going with both of those guys. And JT is one where we'll have to hang on later in the show to see if he's going to be my pick to win. But, I think, guys, he when he struggled through that stretch a little bit, and again, struggling for JT, in terms of his talent, his irons really weren't there during that stretch at the end of last year. And I think he's picked that up quite a bit, them last couple of tournaments that he played. And when he can dial in with his short iron, with his short irons into these greens, I just think it's a huge plus to be able to get them, to get these approach shots close on these greens. And look at the results. 4 top 3s out of the last 5 events. I mean, it's just hard to get away from fading JT. So for me, I would much rather play him. I don't think the ownership is going to be that big of a difference up here. I do think, again, Bryson, at least right now, I believe will come in the lowest out of the 5. And I think I do believe JT will be the highest, but the other 3, I think, are going to be somewhat similar. And Hovland just falls in a spot where I know at times all 3 of us have really liked Hovland. He's won back-to-back tournaments. I just have a hard time believing that. I shouldn't say a hard time believing. I can clearly he's good enough to win this golf tournament, but I'm gonna take the other side of it and take again the middle 3 guys here. I like Morikawa, JT, and Bryson. And if you ask me for my top, I would probably go I'd probably rank them JT, Bryson, and then Morikawa, but it's real close.
Yeah, it's definitely very close. I think, going to this 9K range, because it still sparks a conversation with where we're just coming from in this top range with five-figure guys. I'll say it that way. I think there's definitely merit to this strategy, and I'll be doing it myself to give some of it away, is that you could do the stars and scrubs and even use 2 of those guys up top. I prefer that 2v2 that I said with Snyder off the top. I like it. Morikawa and Bryson fading JT. I think that's plenty of scoring. Morikawa has been just as good as JT in most cases, can definitely win this golf tournament amongst many others potentially this season. And Bryson for the scoring is the same, just as good. And what I know or feel like I know, regardless of what I said about ownership earlier, is at least the JT part. Like I said, I think Rahm will get more than some people think and so on and so forth, but I do think JT is going to be the highest owned up here, and probably for good reason. You can squeeze him out, take above and below, and then be able to fit in a stars and scrubs build. But I'll tell you this right now, Harris English won this golf tournament last year, and that you could still fit Harris English with guys from the top. Don't get me wrong. And that still scored well. And there's a lot of win equity up here, but I think there's a lot of win equity from 9 down to 8K as well. That people might just, they had to get priced the way they had to get priced, but people may overlook that some. And I think there's some merit to actually fading all 5 of these guys at the top, or if you want to be less aggressive, using only one of them and going away from that stars and scrubs that everyone else will easily be able to fit at a tournament like this with all the scoring and all that. I get it. I'm just saying I would do it with a smaller percentage of my overall lineups, but I do like that for a week like this when most will just go, hey, I could fit 2 of these guys at the top. I know all the names. They all could win a golf tournament. They're all good enough. But remember, too, some of these guys that won down at the bottom won like the Honda. Matt Jones, for example, that, is he going 30 under? He doesn't have to at that price. Don't get me wrong here. I'm saying, but is he going 15 under here? You don't know. It may not be for him. He may go on and be the guy that does it. I'm using him as one example, but Stewie Sink, like guys like this, maybe they don't match up as well as when we get to like the 7K range where you could play other guys that, Patrick Reed, Harris English, the winner last year, is at 7,800 and get some of this more balance in there that you can put up to it. But let's talk about this 9K range, Snyder. You got Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, and Burns. And I'll just preface it real quick. Xander, maybe, likely the highest owned on the entire slate. Would you agree?
Yeah, I could think so. Yeah, definitely. I think Xander's probably gonna be, man. I think he's gonna be one of the highest owned guys on the slate this week. Great history here. He won this event back in 2019, 2020. He went tied for second. He got in that playoff with JT. Didn't do well there, or didn't win the playoff, but he still, second place is great. I mean, T5 last year. I mean, I think he's ready to make a big jump this year. I think Xander's going to win a major this year. I think he's finally going to take that next leap this year. So I definitely am going to be jumping on him earlier in this year. So definitely want to have some of him. Cantlay, I mean, he's coming off back-to-back wins to end his year. He's priced at 9.7. I mean, you could make a case for Cantlay could be priced at like 10.5 in this event. Same with Xander. So you're getting a pretty good value on both of those guys. I don't know if I'm going to stay with Sammy Burns. I think I'm going to fade him here. I mean, he ran hot. I mean, he played the best golf of his life down the stretch last year. It'll be interesting to see if he can carry that over through the holidays and the new year. And so I'm just going to kind of take a wait and see approach with him, especially since he's priced up here in this 9K range. So I haven't built any teams yet, so I'm not sure. I think I'm going to definitely have quite a bit of Xander. Not sure how much I'm going to have of Cantlay, but I'm going to be fading Burns in this 9K range. Overweight on Xander, though.
Yeah, I like that call. Uncle T, what are you doing here? It's just a small 9K range, but just talk about it real quick.
Yeah, slightly different take than Snyder. Patrick Cantlay, I was all over towards the end of last year when he was, teeing it up through the Tour Championship and such. But man, he hasn't played, literally hasn't played in about 3 months. So, while he could come out here and play really well, I mean, he's got three finishes here last 5 years, 13th, 15th, 4th. Yeah, nothing wrong with those at all. And clearly he's a top class golfer. I'm going to fade Cantlay though. And Xander, now why did Xander get in? Because of the Olympic win? Because he didn't win
Olympic gold medal winner. Yep.
Yeah. And again, Xander, as Snyder calls him, I do think he will be the highest owned player. And I think on this show last year, I think we might have even said, hey, he's going to win a couple times this year. It's his breakout year. He's too good to not win, but he hasn't done it. And, he is a guy that will finish in the top 5 or top 10 quite a bit, but I don't know. I'm going to fade him too, I think. And hey, with me, maybe, fading Rahm and Xander. I mean, it could be an early laptop shot. If those two come out on Thursday and both shoot low numbers, I'm going to be, in bad shape, but I'm going to go down to Sam Burns. I'm going to take a little bit opposite approach as Snyder. I'm going to ride the hot hand. I mean, this guy was obviously playing the best golf of his career. And I think it's time, guys, to be honest with you. And I'm not saying he's a top 5 golfer, but I think we need to start putting him in that elite category. I really do. And he might laugh at it, but he's definitely a top 10, 12 golfer, and he's proven it. And I think, we're going to talk about another guy here in a little bit that also had a heck of a 2021 year, especially the back half of the 2021 year. And you get these young guys some confidence. And I tell you what, I'm going to start riding the hot hand. I think last year I got caught up a couple times into thinking that these guys couldn't keep up with the pace that they were going when they were rolling out good finish after good finish. And it really cost me. So, and I'm not saying he's going to crush here, but I actually like the fact, Snyder, in a way, that he's priced up to 9,100. And again, I'm not going to be all in on Sam Burns, but out of these 3, I do think I'm going to have more exposure to Burns, and I will have exposure to Burns. I won't have anything on the other 2 though. Might be a little bit contrarian take, but that's okay.
Super contrarian, I think, on the Xander call. Like, it's just like I say, he fits every build. You can start with him and go balanced. Right. You can go Hovland and Xander. You can go JT Xander. You can go a bunch of different builds and easily fit him in. And obviously, he can score well. He's been talked about in the past. Think back to the Tour Championship. He's sort of the no-cut, small field killer, right? That's the thing about Xander, and that's what you're getting him at here at 9,500. I'm going to go. I don't know what the ownership is going to be like. I don't really care. I'm going to say that Cantlay is underpriced. And I know a lot of people are talking about it. I sort of was against this yesterday. The more I dug into it today, obviously the benefit of a first look show to now having this show and then Wednesday, and then of course going over to Run Pure Sports and getting our cores is you can sort of figure out exactly where we're at and blurbs and write-ups and things that we're doing from a strategy perspective. But with Cantlay, like, man, yeah, take the Memorial win away from him because Rahm would have won. He was up 6 strokes before the COVID thing, but what he still went on and won the thing. He can't help. He put it this way. Would Rahm have won it? Most likely, yes, like 99.9% chance. But did Cantlay have it? Like, what can Cantlay do? If Rahm's out of the tournament, it's his job to go out and still beat the other guys behind him. He still did that. He still won the Tour Championship. He still won the money and all that stuff that goes with it. So I think he's just a way better golfer, and the layoff is what it is. The guy's been playing better golf. He's locked in. He's an incredible golfer in general and priced at 9,700. I think a unique stance this week would be either to start with him or to use him as your second guy in over Xander. And then the other one I like, I'm doing the same thing I did up top with JT, where I went above and below. I'm with you, Uncle T. Sam Burns, number 1 in my model over the last 50 rounds. And if you look at everything, man, it's just top 5, top 3 in all the main categories: 3-putt avoidance, DK scoring, the proximities that we want here for the being able to bomb it out there. And then you've either got the 100 to sort of the 75 to 150 or the over 200 where you got a wedge game or a long iron. He's good in all that. He puts birdies up. We're getting 4 full rounds. I also said this yesterday, and I said it incorrectly, but it's not a get right spot. The guy's more than right. He's doing just fine. What I meant to say was it's a statement spot for him. Now he's in front of all these big names, all the best names in the world. Only I think Rory and DJ is kind of who we're missing here. And you think about who's here, and he's already got his wins and things like that proved it a little bit. But now you look at proving it in front of the other 37 guys that won last season and the gold medal winner and all those factors. I definitely think it's a good spot to go back to Sam Burns here. And if people think that's an expensive price, then that's even better for us. But like, imagine starting your lineup, Cantlay, Burns, and then being able to jam in and not have to go to these down below. These are 2 of the hottest players in the world right now. I could definitely see something like that working. So I'm going to stick to that. Let's move on though. Again, these ranges aren't large because there's only so many players in the field, but Snyder, take me through this 8K range. We got Jordan Spieth right down to Tony Finau. And don't forget, Tony Finau got that W, man. He got the Puerto Rico Open curse off his back as well and got the job done there. So maybe he's in for a big season. That was a playoff win. Pretty big event, smaller field, similar type stuff is here. What are your thoughts on this 8K range?
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Spieth's back after a 3-year absence. He did have pretty good success here when he was back when he was winning back in the glory days, but I don't think I'm going to go to him. I think I'm going to fade him. Hopefully people play him. I'll be off him. I'm not going to play Hideki either. He has had a couple good rounds here. A second back in 2017 and a 4th back in 2018. 41st last year here. I think I'm just going to get off him. I need to kind of lower down my player pool here. And I think this 8K range is a good place to just start cutting guys. Brooks, I mean, it's interesting to see if he's even going to try here. I mean, you always got to worry about him when he's not in non-majors, and now he's in Maui. I mean, him and Jenner are down there doing God knows what. Doesn't have good success here either. He's got a 34th and a 24th in his 2 appearances. Lost 24.4 strokes gained total here. So I think he's an easy X off for me. I'm going to be playing Daniel Berger, though. I think he's way underpriced here. I like betting him, too. I think he's got the upside to win this event. Pretty solid finishes here. Three finishes inside the top 15 with a 10th place last year. I think he's going to roll into this year and keep just having another successful year. He ranks number 1 in strokes gained approach the last 24 rounds. I mean, I can't say anything wrong about Berger here. Cam Smith kind of ended the year on a high note. I mean, I can see him playing pretty well here. I mean, the Aussies, I think the Aussies can translate to this course pretty well. I like the other Aussie later better than him. Sungjae, he just came in here last year and just went gangbusters. Top 5. Usually a first time golfers here kind of struggle with how this course is set up. Is different than most other courses, undulating fairways. And this is actually the only course that they take carts on their practice round. I learned today. Amanda Balionis was talking about that, so that was interesting. Sungjae, he's just a machine though. 8K. I mean, that's a fair price tag for him. I mean, elite ball striker. Abe Answer's another guy down here. I think I'll have some of Abe Answer. 8.1K. Just a great ball striker. He got a win last year. 17th place finish here in 21, which isn't great, but I mean, I think he's got the upside to top 10 here. So I'm going to be on Answer. Not going to get to Finau. He struggled in his last appearance here last year, T31. He kind of struggled down the stretch of the year too. I wasn't on him much last year, and I'm going to continue to stay away from him for a while. I think he's going to catch some ownership down here at 8K. I mean, that's a great price tag for his upside, though. Definitely don't mind if you want to throw him in some GPP. So, I mean, he's definitely, especially with all these par fives, I mean, he can rack up birdies and eagles here like nothing other. But my favorite golfer in this range is going to be Danny Burns. Danny Berger. Danny Berger.
Burns on the mind still, yeah.
I know. I just looked at his name again. He's a first timer here too as well, but definitely like a Berger here. Probably Berger 1. And then it's going to be either Sungjae or Abe Answer. I'm not going to play much from this 8K range, though.
Okay. Burger's definitely looking tasty, pun intended, but I will say that. And Sam Burns, you spoke of him again. Think going back. Another thing about Sam Burns, it was someone posted it today and was like, someone posted, I think it was PGA Splits 101 about the putting ranks on Bermuda. And it was Justin Ray, who always posts stats out, said like, I'm surprised Burns isn't higher. I thought about Bermuda Burns, but been talking about this for a long time. This show, last season, Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast, that's not true. He was considered Bermuda Burns. That was more of a Killer Keith Mitchell thing to me. Burns kept getting better on every surface. He was good on all kinds of surfaces. So to me, that was just an extra. Like I said, that's why he rates out so well everywhere. I've got a little bit of a different take in here, but Uncle T, I'll get your take first on this 8K range. You got Jordan Spieth all the way down to Tony Finau.
Yeah, similar thoughts on this range as Snyder had. Very similar. Although I'm not out looking at Amanda Balionis's Twitter account like Snyder is, so I can't give you tidbits like that. So I apologize in advance for that. But yeah, starting at the top, Jordan Spieth, he's one of my guys, but I just can't do it this week. He had, like Snyder said, he hasn't been there in a couple years. He's had a lot going on the last couple months with, I think he had gave birth to the first kid and, got a lot of different things going on, and he's going to go out there and have a good time. I don't think this is the best course for him right at the moment. So going to fade him. I think, like Snyder said, he's going to carry a little bit of ownership. Don't necessarily like that at 8,900. Matsuyama, going to fade him as well. Just, don't usually play Matsuyama on courses like this, even though he does rank out pretty well, a 4th, a 2nd, and a 41st, like we talked about. Koepka's the interesting one. Have we confirmed Jenna is in Kapalua with
Correct.
them, though? Because
they landed about 3 days ago, I think, according to her Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I'm not necessarily on him right now, but he could be one of the guys in this range because of how I talked about earlier my builds, and I didn't necessarily like anything in the 9, maybe Sam Burns. I don't necessarily like anything way at the top here, but 8,500, it is very interesting. I will say that. So if he could get off to a good start on Thursday where he could keep his interest level, on the golf course instead of off, I do think he would be interesting this week. I'm showing him around 13 or 14%. Again, we don't know how true these ownerships are at this point. Daniel Berger is one of my favorite players on the board. He's one of my favorite golfers anyway. He's one of the best iron players in this field. Good driver of the golf ball, and like Tambo mentioned, he's a good putter on Bermuda. So nothing not to like about Daniel Berger here. Cam Smith is an interesting one. I don't know if you brought him up, but I don't know. I usually am on the wrong side of Cam Smith, is why I'm a little bit hesitant. Just from a psychological standpoint, whenever I play him, he kind of sucks, and when I fade him, he screws me. But Cam Smith is interesting here. He doesn't have the best history, 24th and a 17th, but pretty fair price tag, to be honest, with Cam Smith. So I do have some interest there. I like the Sungjae M call T5 here last year in his first appearance. I feel like he does set up pretty well for this golf course. Good with his irons. For him, it's just a matter of whether or not he can, get hot on the green. So don't mind him. And Answer is a guy that I want to keep playing, but it just doesn't feel like he ever gets in there on Sunday where he can win. And I don't know if it's a a hole in my golf game. Whenever I think about him, he is fairly priced though, 8,100. You're not paying a premium for him, but feels like he's always going to get you a 15th to 20th or a 12th to 18th. And I'm looking for maybe a little bit more upside and volatility on this type of a, short field tournament. So I don't know if I'm going to go to Answer. I do like Tony Finau. I think he, like we talked about, he got that win off his back last year. He didn't have the best finish of last year either, taking, the time off here around the holidays in the last part of the swing season. He can make birdies in bunches, right? We've seen that before out of Tony. And, I think he could show up here this week. New fresh start. I think he could be a multiple winner this year on tour after he got that big one last year. So for me, I would rank him Berger 1, M2, and then either Koepka or Finau for me right now.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to hear what you guys' thoughts were. This could completely backfire on me, but I really am going to go hard on this range, actually. But it's probably a much different strategy than most will take, but I think there can be cases made for a lot of them. I think the Spieth one, look, when we want to play Spieth, he bounced back last year. He most definitely did, regardless of what we could say about him the previous years to that. Now he's down to 8,900. The course hasn't been here for a minute, but when you think about the creativity that's required, I don't want to comp it to Augusta. There's been too many of those out there. I get that you could say it because it's the undulating greens, the creativity, but both are pretty strong fields. So I think that's sort of why the cream rises to the top. But I will say this, what do we want when Spieth's there? We want wide fairways. We want him to at least be able to get in the fairway and then do his thing. We know he's good around the green. We know he's one of the best putters in the world. And it's not always just magic beans. That guy does it every single time out. So Spieth at 8,900. The one thing about Brooks, I'm just going to run through it all real quick. The one thing about Brooks is he knows he has to play 4 rounds. When he's oftentimes in these regular season PGA Tour events, it's the fact of, he can go home after 2. If day 1 goes bad, why not pack it up? When you know you're already here for 4, you may as well come out and just go after it. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. I'll be lighter on him than Spieth and Berger, but he's the other guy there that I like. And then after it, Sungjae and Finau are the guys I have more interest in. Sungjae can go low any given day. The guys looked good. If you think about some of the events that he's shown up at that can correlate, the stats in general, just go across the board, he's good. And then Finau, between Finau and Answer, I always like them both. They both got their big wins, right? Answer finally got his W. It was at a WGC event. So shorter field, stronger field. That's what this is. But now I worry a little bit more about like 25 under. Answer's more of a grinder, right? You're going to see him get to that 12, 15 under, maybe 18 under at best. I don't know. And you don't need it all at 8K or at 8,100, I should say, but I do worry a little bit more about him. But Finau getting that win in the playoffs, I think could be big. You get 4 days of scoring from Finau, regardless of ownership. I think it's going to be dispersed enough because when we get into the 7K range here in a second, you've got Patrick Reed, Course Horse, and then English, last year's winner. So I do think it'll be at least spread out. It's not going to be like Tony's one of the highest owned. He always gets ownership. I shouldn't say that. He'll be one of the higher owned guys, but he's not going to be the highest owned on the slate or one that you have to fade because of that. You can just sort of play your guys here. And I think when you think about him, it's kind of like Bryson Light. Can bomb it out there. Definitely has an underrated around the green game. So even if when he's not hitting the greens, which these are extremely large greens, he should hit them. He's able to keep it up there. And oftentimes the other thing about Tony Finau is you guys may remember him as missing these putts. Not you guys, but just people in general see him and think, hey, oh, he's always missing those short 6-footers. Well, those are normally for par or something. Here, if it's eagle, those are going to be for birdie that he's able to tap those in, right? So that's the thing with the 4 par 5s. It can definitely add up quickly. I think Finau could be a good play at 8,000. But let's go back to you, Snyder. Let's talk about this 7K range, shorter than normal again, but we got Patrick Reed down to Billy Horschel. And then any other thoughts you have on the 8K range, if you want, or just that strategy in general? I just think it's going to be different if you use 3 8K guys this week, where most won't even have any, or will maybe have 2 at most.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a valid strategy. I mean, I don't see many people doing that. I mean, I think your average salary before you put any golfer in is like 8,300. So you could almost play like 4 of those guys and then maybe 1 9K and then punt or something. I mean, that's definitely an interesting approach here. I think a few of these guys have what it takes to win this event too. I mean, mainly with Berger and some of those guys. But yeah, this 7K range, the price tag on Patrick Reed is just tempting me to play him. I mean, he's got good course history, but I just don't think I can click that name. I could see him coming out with a vengeance. So this year, after getting snubbed on the Ryder Cup, and I think he could try and earn his way onto the President's Cup this year. Or Harris English right under him won this event last year. he kind of struggled down the stretch though last year. Kind of everything was going wrong for him. A little off the tee, the putter went bad. I think he lost his putter or his putter grip or something got switched there. Kind of threw him out of sorts. I think he lost 6 strokes putting one of those events where he missed a cut. I mean, I like Harris English though. I had my best week of the year at the Travelers when he shipped that. I had him quite a bit in that event. Ended up shipping one of those 20 max events. Jason Kokrak's always like a GPP upside guy. He's hard to get right at times. I'm not sure if this is quite the track to go out to him, but he's a bomber off the tee. I mean, just comes down to if he can get the hot putter or not. T35 in his first trip here, but like I said earlier, some of these guys struggle on their first trip here. So interesting there. I think English and Kokrak are both good ways to get off of Gooch. I think Gooch is probably going to be one of the most popular guys in this range. I'm hearing quite a bit of his name around the industry so far early in this week. Ended the year strong, had a great year last year. I mean, you can't say much wrong about him. I mean, he's going to come out here. He's going to score well. He's a great play. I think he's going to be like one of the cash lock almost in this field. I really like Mark Leishman though under him. He's got a couple good finishes here, 7th and a 4th. I think this course sets up really well for him. I mean, he's at Aussie. He can deal with the winds if they happen to come up. So I like him there. I think his game's going to translate really well here. Again, I think he could do another top 7 or better like he did back in 2018, 2019. So I definitely am going to be overweight on Leishman. I think he's going to be pretty low owned as well. Kevin Na, I don't think I'm going to keep following him. I mean, he had a great end of the year, I believe, but he's kind of struggled here. He's lost over 20 strokes total here. He did have some good pops though last year. 2nd at the John Deere, 2nd at the Wyndham, 3rd at the Tour Championship. So I think he's going to see some ownership, but I don't think I'm going to be going there. Billy Horschel, I'll probably have a little bit of him. He just seems like this is a good course for him. Has an 11th place finish here in 2018. He was up and down last year. I'm kind of sad that Cameron Champ was out because I was going to be on Cam Champ pretty big, but I think I'm going to have to move some of that ownership downward. And I think I'm going to move some of it to Billy Horschel. But man, it's tough in this range to Mark Leishman is definitely my number 1 guy. And then it's probably, I'm just going to probably play Gooch at the field or what I think the field's going to be. Cause I think he's a really solid option this week. Just slow and steady, does what he does, scores well. So I might get on Harris English too, just cause I really hope he can get it going again this year. It was fun to watch him have success during the middle of that season. He had some really good finishes, was consistent, did well for us. Yeah, Mark Leishman mainly for me in this range at 7.5. I think that's a great price tag.
Yeah, and just hearing you go through the range, like that's sort of where my point comes in. I think it's not even close at the 8K range. And of course, it's the higher priced range. We're saying it's such a difference in being able to talk about those names than this. And I think all the builds are going to have some sort of a 6K guy in there, or at least one. So that's where I'm saying, if you could just say that, okay, can Cantlay, X, or Burns contend with some of these guys at the top? We know all these 8K guys can contend at the top. Like I think that the winner could come from the 8K range. If you look at Spieth, Koepka, Berger, Smith, Answer, Finau, like it definitely could happen. And then you got down in the 7K range that we just don't completely love. At least I'm the same as you. So Uncle T, talk to us about this 7K range, and then we'll get to the 6K range after that.
Yeah, I don't have as much interest in this range at all. The 2 guys that I have, I'll make it fairly brief. I mean, I've got Patrick Reed at 7,900. I've actually got made an outright bet on him this earlier today at 28-1. I think value wise in a short field like this, I think he's one of the better values down the board that can clearly win this golf tournament. He's very familiar, obviously, with the course, plays well here. He's really good with really good around the greens, which is what we want here. So I really have a lot of interest, DFS and outright on Patrick Reed. So I really like him at the top of the board there at 79, or top of the range at 7,900. I'm gonna pass on English and Kokrak. Kokrak is an interesting GPP play for sure, because like Snyder mentioned, you just don't know when he's going to pop off is the problem. You know, I mean, he could literally go low and really get hot. He obviously is a bomber that, could take advantage of this course, but 35th place finish last year here. Not sure I'm going to go there, but I am going to go with Taylor Gooch. I know someone in the chat earlier was right on point when I was talking about Sammy Burns and riding the hot hand, and I'm going to do it here, guys. And it doesn't mean a whole lot of anything, but our current FedEx Cup leader to start the year is Taylor Gooch, and obviously again that means absolutely nothing. But other than I think a win could be coming, probably not this week for Taylor Gooch, but I really like him here. He's got again 4 of his last 5 finishes to finish up the year were 11th or better, including the win last time out. So a lot of interest there. I don't mind the Leishman call, Schneider, to be honest with you, but I'm going to go down a little bit. My third guy that I'll have a little bit interest in this group, really mainly Reed and Gooch, but I will have a little interest in Billy Horschel. I think at an even 7K, I think he could be maybe mid 7Ks in this field. And I think, if he could get us a 12th to 15th place finish, maybe, right? Maybe 18th place finish at 7K. I think we'll take that, right, Tambo? So I do have a little bit of interest in Billy Ho down at the bottom end of the range.
Yeah, I like Billy Ho quite a bit. And those might not know, but obviously a Florida guy, Florida Gator out on Bermuda. That's sort of his thing, Bermuda greens. I think that matters here. And at 7K, he's the guy. Plus, we've seen it at times at tournaments where he can go 20, 22 under and be in the mix. So I think that's what you want here at a guy down at 7K. I know Kevin Na has won I think he won the Sony Open last year, and that's coming up next week in Hawaii. So maybe some good vibes. But man, he's got to make a lot of putts. I think Horschel is more likely to throw up like a 62 or something, where that really will be a big difference maker on your lineups over the 4 days. Don't love this range. I liked Gooch a lot, just thinking about it coming in, but it sounds like he's picking up steam. And at tournaments like this, man, the 7K chalk guy is almost like the 6K chalk guy in a normal event with a full field, where you just know there's so many other options there. And I like Kokrak. I always do. I don't know, like say, whether it's a good course fit or not. Just look at his overall game and all around game. It definitely suits it here. When he won in Vegas at Shadow Creek, that sort of was a go low spot. Got, other wins since then too. So I just think that makes sense at 7,700. And again, below, Leishman, maybe. Like you said there, Snyder, that's a guy, if you thought about last year coming off of the COVID stuff, he was pretty honest about everything going on with his game. He said he sort of got lazy with it, didn't pick up a club. It kind of showed, but then he bounced back and sort of picked it up from there. So I think, again, above and below, it's been sort of the theme of the show here. Reed and English are going to pick up ownership if they fit, and you can put them in there. Go ahead. I think Kokrak could be even this year's English with the stats. They're very similar, and he's right underneath them. So Kokrak, Leishman, Horschel, a little bit of Reed. That's sort of where I would go in this range. And then let's drop down to the 6K range, because this is going to be one we talk a little bit on, just sort of round out the show. But Snyder, I'll go to you again. Just go through it here with us. Siwoo Kim all the way down to Matt Jones. Obviously, Cam Champ, as we talked about off the top, being eliminated based on withdrawing due to a positive COVID test.
You're on mute, donkey.
That's a donkey move there. But yeah, I think the 6K range is interesting. It's quite big here. We've got, looks like around 15 guys here. Siwoo Kim's, he's fine. I think he's got a 10th place here in 2018. I think it just comes down to him getting hot with the putter, basically. He's good for GVPs. I don't mind that. I was going to be pretty heavy on Cam Champ, so I'm kind of sad to see him go. He had good history here. He had a couple of top 15s, but that's no longer needed here. Max Homa is a guy I really like here. 6,700. I think that's a really good price tag for him. Coming off 2 wins last year, he won at the Fortinet, like a birdie fest, 19 under, like gained 15 strokes in that event. But he also won at the Genesis, which is a tougher field, tougher course. I mean, I think he's a jack of all trades, and definitely a guy that's going to come out with some swagger and not be afraid or intimidated of any of these guys. He locked down Finau head-to-head in that playoff and took it to him there. Seamus, I was on him quite a bit last year. I'm going to continue to be on Seamus this year. I like his golf talent. I think he's got just really good overall all-around game, and I think he does better on these easier courses and these birdie fests. So I'm going to be having him. He's got good birdie upside. Phil's interesting here. I know JSU is going to love him. 6'5" for Phil. Phil's going to be out here, and he's going to be swinging as hard as he can and throwing darts. I mean, he's got the ability to rack up a lot of birdies here or absolutely trunk slam. I mean, he's definitely interesting for GPPs. I'm not sure exactly how much or where I'm going to get on him. Higo's a guy that I was on sparingly last year. He's got some upside, birdie upside, Euro guy. Brendan Grace, I don't think I'm going to get there. Cam Davis, 6'2", good price tag. He's got really good birdie upside. I mean, he's a guy that he could definitely outscore his position for sure with his birdie making ability. So I think he's interesting at 6'2". Lucas Hebert, he's at 6'1". I mean, this guy, he's a stud too. I mean, I think he's I mean, at 6,100 for Herbert, I mean, we're not looking for too much from him. And he won the Bermuda, easier course, easier track. I think he's got what it takes. I mean, he's got a few top 20s last year. I think he's interesting here at 6-1 at basement price. Joel Dahlman, I think he's going to be one of the most popular guys down here. 5th at the Houston Open. He did win at the Corrales Punta Cana, another like resort type kind of track like this. I think he fits well. I'm not sure how much I'm going to get on him, kind of depending on how much the field gets on him. I mean, if he's going to be really chalky down here at 6-1, I'm definitely going to look to pivot. I think Kisner is a nice play down here, 6K. He's got a couple good finishes here, 17th and the 14th, 24th last year. I think this is one of those places, birdie fast. It's going to play easier. I mean, it's going to play longer, but this elevation is going to kind of mitigate some of that. I think he's going to be able to target these pins and kind of play to his strength. He's going to hit the ball right. I mean, everyone's going to hit the ball right down the fairway, but he won at the Wyndham last year. I think Kisner at 6K. If everybody's going to be on Dahlman and no one's on Kisner, I don't mind at all going straight to Kisner there. I mean, I think he's the best value play in this range. I'm definitely going to be overweight on Kisner. And then Max Homa, I'm going to be overweight on him quite a bit as well.
Yeah, there's a few guys you can definitely play down here. Like you mentioned, Joel Damon, Homa, I think are going to pick up some steam, but I like a couple others. Uncle T, I'll go to you first here. What do you got down in the 6K range? And then I'll round it out.
Yeah, get some good plays there by Schneider. First off, the chat, we got our boy Ken Micko. I guess early in the season here, guys, we pick up and we get a troll right out of the gate. Ken Micko talking about how I leave $900 on the table. Ken, I think it looks like we might have got rid of him, but hey, we're just giving you some different angles on how you can build your teams without filling out, your whole salary. And this is a week, if you're going to do it, I think is a good option. But anyway, excuse me. At the top of the board, Max Homa, he's my other outright that I've already bet, guys. 80-1, I got him at this morning. So, I do think he is going to be the highest owned in this grouping for sure. But I'll try to pair him with someone above him that is, kind of break up my ownership that way. I won't have him with a bunch of higher owned guys. But one guy I didn't hear you mention was Seamus Power. I don't think you did anyway.
He said he'd be on his boy. He said he'd be on his boy.
Yeah, I hit on him a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like just a great value option here. And usually, I'm not saying he's going to win the golf tournament. Usually I like him in birdie fests that have a lighter field, right? A lot less watered down field when he's in it. And I really like it. But at the same time, he's only 6,600. And, if we're thinking mid-20s may win this golf tournament, if you were to tell me Seamus Power went out, 16, 17, 18 under, which I think is firmly in play, I think I'll definitely take that at 6,600. So really like him a lot. Going down the board, Cam Davis is a guy that I usually like on easier courses, fade on hard courses for the most part. But I think he has a lot of GPP upside as well. I don't mind the Abear call, or however you pronounce that last name. I never know. I think that guy won 3 times on tour last year. So I definitely get that play. EVR, I think I'm kind of the quiet EVR whisperer at times. It feels like he's so cheap most of the time. And this week, 6,100, I think, again, he has some big playability where he can get some birdies going. So don't mind EVR. And if you're going all the way down to the bottom, I don't mind the Kevin Kisner call down there at an even 6K. No one's going to own him. So for me, Homa, Power, and then probably a little EVR all the way at the bottom. But I'll have exposure based off of my builds I mentioned earlier, going stars and scrubs. I'll have access to a lot of these guys in this 6K range.
Yeah, and just of note, like $900, Hideki Matsuyama, 8,700. You got Harris English, the winner at this tournament last year at 7,800. One guy, Hideki, who's incredible and better long-term, but has never picked up a club for who knows how long. And then last year's winner, you're telling me you can't leave 900 on the table? There's plenty of examples like that. Reed or Horschel. Like you're never going to know. Spieth or, I was looking at Spieth or Tony Finau or Reed. Like they're almost the same.
You can go like Justin Thomas to Cantlay too. I mean, who's to say that doesn't hit?
Yeah, there's so many spots. So you can absolutely leave that money on the table. I'll tell you what though, boys, we talked a lot about Seamus Power last year. You did mention him, Snyder. Uncle T gave it like a little more juice. I'm jamming the whole bottle down, dumping the whole, like this is the guy. I have no clue that if this guy's not the highest owned guy on the slate, then people are doing it wrong. 4th at the RSM where Gooch won. And by the way, Gooch gained 5 strokes putting, something he never does, to win that tournament. Seamus Power almost lost strokes putting and came fourth. Let me tell you about the places he finishes high up. 11th at the Mayakoba, 12th at the Bermuda, 1st at the Barbasol, 8th at the John Deere, 8th at the Rocket Mortgage. These are all birdie fests, and they're pricing this guy at 6,600. He's literally one of the best in the field. If it backfires, I don't care. He'll never get enough ownership for me to care. He could be 12%, 15, don't care. Doesn't matter. 6,600, that's ludicrous. I hope people play Homa. I'm extremely high on Homa for the season. Very bullish. I think like the reason about that is though, some people confuse this. When I talked about it on the Fantasy Golf Degenerates season preview pod, I like Homa's number at the Masters, for example, because I know he's going to have Riviera and places like this beforehand and play well where his number is going to drop. So I'd rather take the value now before that happens. That doesn't mean I love him here. I think Homa's great. Could he go low? Absolutely. The nice thing about a guy like Homa is that it's boom or bust. We saw it plenty of times last year, boys, where it's either 6th place or winning the thing up to winning it or just completely missing the cut. But Seamus Power just shows up at Birdie Fest. He's going to be a great value. The stats across the board, like I said, will just never get to be enough. Cam Davis, another guy very similar, but I think with Cam Davis, it's more boom or bust. I got way more conviction on Seamus Power. Joel Damon, again, we'll see what happens here with the ownership. Lucas Herbert is right there. Lucas Herbert, this guy won 2 times on the European now DP Tour, DP World Championship Tour, and then came out and got his PGA Tour win on the 3rd event out. That's kind of a talent that you're looking for. And one note about him, just if you follow the Euro stuff, guy's only real downfall is his driver. And here you got 80 yards across, 80 feet across or something like that. I don't think that's going to be a problem. So he's definitely a good little pivot there if you want to go off of Joel Damon. But for me, Cam Davis, Lucas Herbert, and then, of course, Seamus Power. That's the 3 guys I absolutely love down in this range. If I'm going there, again, I'll tell you right now, you can make lineups with 2 of them, but I don't think you need to go further than that. And I will most definitely have lineups where I only use one of them or none of them. So that's where I'm thinking with that. Let's go through it, though. Anything else either of you want to add before we pick our winners for the week?
I think, that mid-range, like 8K start, just like cut off all those 9K guys. It's definitely interesting. I think that's going to be very, very unique. And another thing, like kind of like we talk on Showdown sometimes, I mean, you just plug in your lineup with like a Morikawa, Rahm, Thomas, one of those top guys, and you just take him out and plug in one of these other guys to kind of leave salary on the table and get different, because I don't think many people, the optimizers definitely aren't going to be doing that. And I don't think many people are going to hand build that way either. So that's an interesting way to attack this slate. Just have fun with this slate. Don't be going too crazy. Next week we get a full field event. Anything can happen here. It's going to be a birdie fest. A lot of wild things could happen. Give me a fun event to have back though. It's going to leave us hungry for the main course, I guess, next week.
For sure. And I love this course, by the way. Like we talked, Uncle T mentioned a little earlier, hole 18 and the potential for downfall there, even though it is a par 5, you go wide left, you're in big trouble there. And, Justin Thomas learned the hard way and then bounced back and won the thing. But, that was a rough way to end it out. It's always good when you come away with the W either way, but just in general, that can happen. I remember last year, I think it was, who was it there? Was it Xander or Joaquin Neiman? Wasn't it Neiman or something in one of these tournaments where he was sitting on the sidelines eating a cheeseburger with Sergio Garcia instead of warming up, and then he loses in the playoff? Like, you can't be doing that, man. You got to go get those clubs going, get ready. So we'll talk about it here on our winners, but just of note, that last point you made, Snyder, like it's crazy. People aren't looking at it enough, I guess, but like Morikawa is 14-1 and we like him. We love him. But you got, Daniel Berger is 8,400 versus 10-8 and he's 22-1. Like I think Patrick Reed is 7,900. He's 24-1. Like these odds, man, these guys can all win this tournament. They've definitely been in the mix before and have the opportunity. Uncle T, any final thoughts? If so, go ahead. If not, give me your favorite for the week that you've got to win, and then give us a little bit of a long shot as well.
Yeah, I think now we got primetime golf. So this will be on, in the evening, right? This will be finishing up in the evening.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then we have Shot Tracker, right? I did get asked that in Discord. Do we have Shot Tracker?
I always forget between these ones if we get it or not. I
think it's there. Yeah.
Sure. I think at the Sony we have Shot Tracker for sure, but I couldn't remember at Kapalua. So I just brought that up because I had it. Someone messaged me about that. But yeah, for my winners this week, if we, are we including the top range or not?
Yeah, anybody, it's whoever you got to win the tournament. Just pick your winner. It could be someone, it could be Rom if you think the favorite wins, and then your long shot. And then our boy Abreu, always love this guy in the chat. He said, give us a hot take for the season as well. I've got one, so I'll let you roll ahead. So give your winner, your long shot, and your hot take, and then we'll get out of here once Snyder and myself go.
Yeah, I'm going to go down the board a little bit. On week one here, again, a smaller field. I'm going to go with 8,400, 22-1, Daniel Berger. We talked about him quite a bit tonight in the last hour plus. Just think Daniel Berger is going to, I mean, he had a great year last year. I think, again, I just think he could even expound on that even more and just really, really elevate his game this year to another level. So I'm going to go Daniel Berger. And then my long shot, I'm going to go down to Seamus Power. Hopefully I don't steal Tambo's, but Seamus Power all the way down there at 6,600 is my long shot. And then give me just a minute on my hot take for the year.
For sure. Snyder, same thing. Go ahead with whatever you've got there.
Yeah, for my long shot, I'm going to roll with Mark Leishman there. I think, I mean, it's unlikely, but I mean, he's got decent odds. I guess I don't even know what his odds are, but it's got to be way up there. I mean, he's got to be at least like 65-1, doesn't he? I don't have the odds pulled up, but my winner
actually, last I looked, maybe 80.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I mean, he's got a couple top sevens here. I mean, he could get hot and get a rolling. I mean, definitely like him there for a long shot. I'm going to be backing my guy Morikawa here. I think he's going to take over number one in the world this week and ready to roll. I mean, I expect him to win another major this year. Keep rolling. I mean, the kid's just unreal. If he can just learn to putt, I mean, if he could just putt to even, I think he would win 4 or 5 times this year. But I mean, he's got to work on that, and we'll see where that gets to. As far as my hot take for the year, I'm going to be going right back to my guy, Taylor Moore. I was on him in the swing season during the fall. I think he's a guy to watch out for this year. I think he's going to win one of these smaller Birdie Fest type events. Got 8th at the RSM in the last event out. I think he's got the upside to win an event this year.
Yeah, love the Taylor Moore call. Everyone always wonders who this guy is when we're playing him, but you'll see a lot more of him this season for sure. I definitely agree with that. Good call out for that. Uncle T, you got your hot take ready? Now I'm mute two.
Go with your winner and long shot.
Yeah, up top. I'm going to go off the board. I think Cantlay is going to come through. I'm even, like I said, going to start some lineups with him. So I'll correlate my winners with my builds. I think you could start with Cantlay. He could win this tournament here, even off the long layoff, and he can't be good anymore. He's never played golf. I just think it's going to be a pick that people either go down to Xander or go up above, and I think he could win the whole tournament. I'm with you on Seamus Power below, so I'll add a second caveat to it. I think he'll be the best point per dollar play on the entire slate, be up to the top if he doesn't win. So I think he's fine. You could do a top 10 or something. Lucas Herbert down there as well. So that's sort of where I'm at. And then my hot take, I was going to talk about it earlier, but it's going to be a negative one. I'm going to say Scotty Scheffler still doesn't get a win. And I'm going to say Ricky Fowler gets worse than last season. While many will say he's going to get better, or now he's got it all figured out, I'm actually going to say he gets worse. So 2 negative takes. I love Scotty Scheffler, but I don't think he gets the W. I don't think he's a closer. We'll wait and see.
Who's up? Me?
Your hot take.
I'm gonna go with Rory McIlroy wins the Masters. Is that hot enough take or not?
Yeah, I mean, it closes out the career Grand Slam. He hasn't been able to do it yet, so that would definitely be a hot take. With how many? I think he had like 8 tries at it now or something since.
Yeah, I think he's going to close it out this year and get it done.
7 to maybe.
I kind of hope we see. I kind of hope we see him rip a couple more polos this year. I mean, that was pretty funny.
He got so mad about it. Then he went on, I believe it was like no laying up or whatever he went on and said it was just a shirt. Like, well, it's still going to get some people saying stuff when you're in the pro shop. He said, yeah, I had to send my agent to buy a shirt from the pro shop. That doesn't happen very often. So appreciate you guys in the chat. If you can hit the like button on the way out. I see almost 70 watching as of now. We'll obviously have a lot more of you guys watching throughout the next couple of days. Hit the like button, subscribe. It really does help us out, and we appreciate you. Awesome to be back. Like you said, it's a bit of an appetizer, but for me, with how good the field is, how good the course is, the prime time, everything you talked about between the two of you guys and myself, I'm excited for this event. So for Uncle T, for Snyder, and for myself, Toe Tag and Tambo, Simon, get us out of here.